Hello ZZ Proxies, it's your boy Josh, and today we have an amazing slideshow for you. Here is how to play Soldier Anby in 5 easy steps. First step, press your basic attack button. Second, press your E special skill. Third step, don't worry about step 4 and 5 because that's literally all you need to do. Like, I swear to God, you literally must do 2 gosh darn buttons and like you're already, this damage is absurd. Welcome in ZZZ Proxies. It's your boy Josh, and today we're going to be taking our very first look at the Burger Master themselves, Soldier Zero Anby. Coming in 1.6, this juggernaut of a damage dealer is no joke. So let's show you how to play her, rank all of her gameplay aspects, show you how to build her, and also give you some great team suggestions and other tips to bring out the best of Anby.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Before we begin, I must let you guys know that a lot of the footage and information coming from this video is from the Creative Early Access server. And by you hitting the like button, you guys can continue to support us in making this early access content for you guys. So yeah, you should guys hit the button and subscribe too. Yeah. So let's first start with Anby's kit. Compared to a very complicated running mate that is Haramasa, Anby is much more simplified as she only revolves around one general mechanic, the Aftershock. Any single enemy you attack will gain the Silver Star status. You'll be building up damage into a stack called the White Thunder, which will allow you to send thunderbolts of lightning, very frightening, against the enemy that will count as this new form of follow-up damage that Obol's squad can utilize, called Aftershock. This damage is follow-up and not anomaly, such that this form of electric damage can crit. I wonder where we've seen altered forms of elemental applications before. Let's quickly get into the showcase of her combat, as there are a few forms of her special that you want to account for. If you see here, when you have a full bar of special, when pressing down to activate, you actually don't consume the bar. Well, that's because you need to hold down to utilize the EX special. The tap special is strictly reserved for her other attack, the Azure Flash. This attack will consume a stack of White Thunder, if there is one, indicated by the shining spike on the Silver Star, allowing you to deal additional Aftershock damage. Note that if multiple enemies are within range and have separate numbers of the White Thunder, up to a max of 3 can be consumed at a time. Yes, I've tried doing more than 3. They've coded it such that you will consume the stacks as long as you hit them. To build up this damage, you easily will just hit a marked target that will build up the meter with any attack. Generally, when in the flow of her basic combo, you'll need a full 5 hits to gain 1 stack. But what's cool about Anby is that you're actually able to perform a small dashing flurry of attacks with the penetrative shock after the 4th basic, leading up to 5 dashes as seen here. This will allow you to build up to the doorstep of 2 out of the 3 total stacks you can generate for White Thunder. As I mentioned before, the basic is just one way to generate the White Thunder stacks, your EX Special 2, and with it you can actually build up to a max of 3 White Thunder stacks, allowing you to triple dash with the Azure Flash. The reason you don't just want to be performing the White Thunder Strike every chance you build up to it is due to the additional special ability, Thunder Smite. This is an extra form of Aftershock damage that can only trigger with 3 times of White Thunder. This damage essentially is worth an Azure Flash on its own, so you're essentially getting 4 for the price of 3. And just for the Theory Crafters nerds out there, no, the Smite does not count to build back up the Silver Star. But with the EX Special, you can actually flow from said EX Special straight into the basic 3, which would allow you to start dashing right out of the boomerang, which in all honesty isn't that great of a difference, but it does feel nice, and if you can, why not cancel the last basic 5 with the 3 special like so. I think we'll try to tinker around with optimizing these rotations a bit more and get back to y'all during our advanced full guide. Going next to the ultimate, the Void Strike, an absurdly baller name. This ability will allow Anby to gain max stacks onto enemies within the strike zone, such that you can burst them down with Black Flash, I mean Azure Flash combos, plus the Thunder Smite. And to be honest, that's a majority of Anby's kit. Her dodge and assist numbers are quite middling, so you don't really need to worry about them, and the core we'll talk about later. But what I do want to mention right before we jump into any of the numbers is her amazing animations. Like, come on guys, her dodges, her skills, her abilities, these are so stinking cool. And to have her upgraded from the base form, hey, absolute cinema. Now this is where Professor Jshoea shines, the build guide. And to start off this lesson, I'd like to give Anby a new nickname. No, not the Yellow Flash, and no, not the Burger Queen. She'll be known during the segment as the calculator. Yes, a majority of Anby is not necessarily revolved around intricate gameplay. Even though she is super flashy, her kit is actually quite simple compared to the many across the roster. The intricacies with her come in the math, especially when it comes to balancing out her offensive investments. So let's first start with the core voltage gap. She earns herself 25% increased damage on marked enemies. Once enemies are marked with the silver star, they'll earn 30% more crit damage from aftershocks. And with her additional core passive, she gains 10% crit rate, and when active on the field, her aftershock damage further increases by 25%. See now why I call her the calculator? As of this video, I don't plan on doing crazy calculation comparisons, but just for context, let's look at a character like Haramasa and their damage multipliers on the special and dash attacks. Then take a look at Anby's, and they're 3 times the amount. The Azure Flash being pretty much the same as a Hiten no Tsuru dash attack, which takes a substantial amount of time and effort to build up, whereas Anby just holds down a single button and presses the special. It's absurd. Let's quickly then mention Anby's signature, the Severed Innocence. And boy, does this weapon slap! It provides strong base attack at 713 with 48% crit damage. These stats matching that of the Ride Suppressor of Chuyen. But here's where the magic is. The passive, Tranquil Blossom, gives another 30% crit damage. And hey, did you say we needed more crit damage? No. Well, when the user inflicts basics, specials, or aftershocks, we gain 1 stack each, which will increase the user's crit damage by 10% scaled up to 3 times, lasting for 30 seconds.
That's not all, folks.
And with the full stack count, you also gain a 20% scaled electric damage bonus. This weapon is a heavy stat stick that many characters will actually do exceedingly well with, whereas other W engines tend to stick within the niche of their limited character. This weapon providing a whopping 108% crit damage will essentially make up all the crit damage you require for the character, allowing you to prioritize things such as crit rate, pen, and attack. Talking about those stats, let's move then to talking about the drive discs. First, let's mention the main stat of crit rate 4, electric, attack, or pen on 5, depending on how you buff Anby, and then attack on 6. Next, with 1.6 comes the new set, the Shadow Harmony. This Woodpecker power creep grants 15% bonus in aftershock and dash attacks, alongside 12% crit rate and 12% attack total bonuses, with either set conditions hit an enemy lasting for 15 seconds. This is very easily attainable by characters like Anby. Now comes the 2 set, and as a person who struggles to build crit in the substat, I do suggest going for the Woodpecker 2, as the 8% can actually go quite far in rounding Anby's crit to 100%. Yet, if you're a high roller and already have the 8% covered, which I don't know how it's possible, consider rocking the Puffer Electro with 10%. Because Anby has a great investment in attack, electro damage, and crits. The only other contribution is pen and defense down debuffs. We'd be remiss to mention Rina as a support option, and that's only strengthened by that 2-piece pen set. If you are too lazy to be bothered though, just go for 4 Woodpecker and 2 Puffer Electro, Thunder Metal, or attack-based 2 set. But let's be honest, those 50 batteries and 100 battery reserves are not going anywhere. Come on, why aren't we using them already? Start spending them, you orders. Here's the overall build guide for Anby if you'd like to reference this for later. And I have the links to my Twitter and Blue Sky for the infographics so you can browse them at your leisure. Make sure to join us on Twitter and Discord, where it's become a hub for the community to chat and get access to all of these infographic resources. And one last thing to mention about build, skill investments prioritize the core first with special, then basic and chain ult to follow. A majority of the calculator's damage comes from said 3, and funny enough, the dodge and assist numbers have been shafted to make way for a greater on-field presence. So you don't need to max out everything on day 1 if you don't really want to. Next, let's talk teams. We've gone around and tested almost all the variations of our teams, from the best in slots to triple Anby. Yes, I had to try it for the giggles. And here's a collection of the team lists I like so far. Let's go through them in groups. First is the Hyper Carry Anby. This will have a heavy focus on Anby as the front runner with few rotations, with the exception of special usages and buff purposes. Because Anby does so much buffing for herself, she really goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and with Aftershock, +5. The damage is absurd, and the way to maximize this is to get into stun windows as fast and often as a frequent flyer program. Anby with Chingy and Asriel is more than likely our best option to date, with Asriel pressing E and staying out of the way, allowing Anby and Chingy to split the on-field time pre-stun, and during stun, let Anby take the center stage. It's no wonder this comp works extremely well. We also have comps like Anby, Chingy, Rina, which work great as well with the pen and electric shock extension. In this case, I suggest building Qingyi with AP and Rina with AM to quicken that build-up process. And don't forget about the double support comp with 2 ether units. Attack buffs and defense downs are not the same in the damage calc and provide 2 separate synergistic buffs that allow Anby to shred the ops. These 2 are literally the wombo combo of supports, and with M6 Nicole providing crit rate, it's a no-brainer, especially if you're trying to min-max the supplemental crit rate from Nicole's M6 and go for more damage through Anby's build. Aside from the more mainstay supports, you can also double support with Caesar King and Lucy. Remember that core only requires stun or support to grant you the additional bonuses. Then with that in consideration, a more budget-friendly squad could be a Soldier Piper Lucy, those 2 proving to always be a nice little 1-2 punch, especially with Anby building up to the shock and Piper bringing down the disorder. Talking about the Sons of Caledon, we can't forget that Polkra is coming out in the same patch. I'll have a whole video talking about her exclusively since I find her a bit more interesting. And just to jump the gun, it's not because she's a furry. She obviously just has an interesting kit and a big fluffy tail I want to hug. With Polkra and Lucy, you get a strong stun and support combo for Anby and beyond. We then move into shock and disorder comps. A question that I was wanting to answer myself was if Yanagi was going to be a good sub DPS for this comp. The conclusion I came to was yes, because you could just put Anby as the mainstay on-fielder and Yanagi into the disorder duty to catch those fly balls. And by fly balls, I mean enemies, and to catch, I mean zapping with the power of Zeus. But note that your damage might not be as high with Anby up front. Damage is supplemented through the anomaly damage, so you'll still be getting good production, but not as effective as the hyper carry premium teams. And finally, let's talk F2Ps, because many of us don't have all the bells, whistles, and nice toys to play with. Funny enough, the OG starter squad always comes through with base Anby and Nicole as the amazing pairing with the new and improved. And like I mentioned earlier, you can always utilize a variation of A-tier units like Seth and Anby as well to get solid results. Lastly, I did need to note that Trigger, Soldier Zero's running mate, has not been available here. More than likely, we are going to see Trigger come in and replace any of the stun options we see here in the team building discussion, so if you want to pull for both, please do so with expedience. To end the video, let's talk the bang for your buck. What is Anby's value, and how much should you actually invest into her? Firstly, let's talk W engines. The main DPS option definitely is leagues better than your alternative S-tier W engines. However, the Brimstone does come into contention just a shy bit, but my initial thoughts was that, again, attack would have been pretty decent of an investment, but seeing how far crit actually can go, it'd just be better for you to invest into a crit W engine as a priority. There's also Zashin's herb case, that being Haramasa's signature that provides crit damage and crit rate during stuns. It actually comes out to being a solid choice over A tiers based off of the stats alone. Even though she doesn't gain dash attack bonuses, the 40% crit damage and 20% crit rate during stuns is actually of high value here. Other A-tier options like the Cannon Rotor, Marcado's Desire, or Starlight Engine come out to be much less value here since Anby becomes anemic without the insane amount of crit damage. So if you do run these options, you're going to have to work 5 times harder to gain those values back through switching of the 4 slot to crit damage and having to get as much crit rate in the substat as possible. Then after balls comes the Mindscape, and boy, these ones are a doozy. Starting with M1, when you use your EX special, naturally it does not consume any of the White Thunder stacks, and is mainly used for building up the Silver Star. Yet, with this Mindscape, you can trigger the effect of 3 White Thunder stacks while also not consuming the actual White Thunder stacks you have. This actually becomes incredibly valuable as you get to trigger a whole 3-dash combo and actually help you build up to your next 3-dash combo. This has some interesting implications for your stun rotation, yet I would still prioritize the W engine over this, but definitely look into M1ing her if you have the budget. M2 goes even further beyond, allowing Soldier Zero to gain an additional 12% crit rate and allows her to gain a new stock called Thunder's Cry. Now you know this attack is baller when it's making Thunder Cry, because when using Azure Flash with White Thunder, this new stack will be consumed to activate an additional White Thunder. You could call this White Lightning, because, you know, when there's thunder, there's lightning. I'll be here all week. M3 and M5 are skill boosts, which are quite substantial as the Aftershock is tied to the special. M4 is an additional electric res ignore on the marked enemies, and M6 piggybacks on Evelyn, giving you an additional attack, an electromagnetic vortex that will deal damage based off of Anby's attack, which also is considered Aftershock. Shocking. This ability is kind of absurd. Yeah, I personally don't see the value since by the first two Mindscapes, your enemies are probably already dead. So it's like, why spend more money? Because you probably wouldn't see this attack unless you're fighting in a Nineveh or Geppetto. And with that, it will wrap up our very first impressions and basic overview of the Silver Soldier Anby. If there are any changes, I'll be sure to add them in my advanced guide covering more deeper math analysis and secret tips and tricks when she officially releases. But for now, make sure that you guys are subscribed below so when we do come out with said video, you guys are recommended it. And with that, my time here is short because I'm heading back to Twitch to run my birthday marathon, so you better make sure you swing on by and wish me a happy birthday. Click on this next video because you too thinks you'll like it. My name is Josh. Thanks so much for watching, and one more black flash to end the video.